China's foreign ministry has expressed serious concern over its ally North Korea's warning of further missile tests and the eventual possibility of nuclear war. Ministry spokesman Lu Kang told a press briefing China is unswerving in its commitment to realizing the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula, maintaining its peace and stability, and continuing to solve matters through dialogue and negotiations. His comments come amid differing reports about the trajectory of a U.S. strike group in the region. U.S. President Donald Trump's claims that it had been heading to the Korean peninsula were initially dismissed, then later confirmed.
Instead of continuing in one direction, as she pulled out of Singapore, she's going to continue part of her cruise down in that region, but she was on her way up to Korea.
Tensions between Washington and Pyongyang have seen a recent upsurge, with U.S. Vice President Mike Pence describing North Korea as the most dangerous and urgent threat to peace and security in the Asia-Pacific.
U.S. President Donald Trump has said in an interview recently that how much North Korea wants peace is the deciding factor in easing the tension between his country and the United States. He also said that U.S. wants peace and hope that the North Korea top leader also wants peace, and that will be the end determination. And at the press briefing of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, spokesperson Lu Kang said that they have noted the news and China is committed to the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula, maintaining the peace and stability of the peninsula, and also resolve the problems through dialogue and consultation. Let's take a look.
During our interaction with the related parties on the Korean Peninsula nuclear issue, we found they expressed that they don't want war and conflict. As a matter of fact, the majority of the international community wants peace on the peninsula. So we hope all related parties can reach an agreement on this objective and make concrete efforts to work towards it.
Besides that, the acting foreign minister of Philippines also said in an interview that since 2002, China and the ASEAN member countries have stressed the full implementation of the declaration of the conduct of the parties in the South China Sea, also known as DOC. And now China and the 10 ASEAN member countries are negotiating on the conduct of the code of the COC. And so far this year, they've already have 2 meetings. And at the press briefing today, Lu Kang said that China is confident to finish the consultation on the draft within the first half of this year.
Allies on the Korean peninsula should the White House continue to threaten the East Asian nation. Earlier, U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said the Trump administration is reviewing all options on North Korea to step up pressure on the North. To discuss that, we're now joined by Mr. Mike Billington, who is with the Executive Intelligence Review, and he's joining us live now by Skype from Leesburg. Mr. Billington, what do you make of the latest in this U.S. pressure on North Korea and, of course, its reaction?
Well, both the pressure and the reaction are nothing new. Both statements are existing policy. The North's policy has always been, if there is an attack on their country, they will respond in full, which is exactly why they're developing nuclear weapons. They've seen what happened to Iraq and to Libya when they gave up their nuclear weapons, and the U.S. under Bush and Obama bombed their countries back to the Stone Age and killed their leaders. So they will not be giving up nuclear weapons unless there is an agreement with the United States to establish normal relations. Now, this is exactly, in fact, what Trump and Mattis are moving towards. They haven't yet. They always say all options are on the table. They're never going to say they are not. So in South Korea itself, things are calm. People there are used to this. They know that nobody is insane enough to actually attack North Korea, except perhaps the British. And all of this warmongering, including the lies to President Trump to get him to bomb Syria, lies that said that chemical weapons were from President Assad, which of course is absurd, come from the British. And Boris Johnson, just a few days ago, said, I have it on authority from U.S. intelligence that the U.S. is ready to bomb North Korea. Well, this is a lie. This is typical British fake news, geopolitical maneuvering, trying to prevent at all costs the U.S. from working with Russia and with China. And their last effort here is to try to induce an attack on North Korea, which of course would be a war on China, not on North Korea. So the issue here is the empire. The British Empire is frantic that Trump is breaking from the traditional imperial division of East and West, that exactly as the Russian ambassador told the British ambassador at the UN last week, what the British are terrified of is that Trump will bring the US and Russia and China into an alliance around the Silk Road to use development rather than war as the basis for bringing the world's nations together around a new paradigm of the sort that Mr. and Mrs. LaRouche have been fighting for since the 1970s and 80s, and which is now at the closest point to being implemented in modern history. Although we are also at one of the nearest point to a potential global nuclear war. So this is a critical, crucial turning point in history in which all nations and all individuals must work with LaRouche and with our organization as best they can to bring Trump into alliance on the Silk Road and not get cornered by this British apparatus, which largely ran Bush and Obama, of fighting wars and using regime change policies, which he swore he would not do during his campaign. And I think it's absolutely possible that we can get Trump to move towards collaboration on the Silk Road and to end this warmongering and regime change policy.
Well, tensions remain high tonight with North Korea, which tried and failed to launch a ballistic missile last weekend. There's been a lot of speculation over whether they can strike the United States, the mainland U.S., with a nuclear weapon. But even if they can't, what would war with the Kim's fortress state look like? One man who has thought a lot about this is George Friedman. He's founder of Geopolitical Futures, and he joins us now. George, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So what are our options? The White House has said we're not going to put up with any more nuclear testing, ballistic missile testing. North Korea said we're going to continue doing both. Where do we go from here?
Well, we first have to look at what we know. And the problem is we don't know if they have nuclear weapons that are operational at this point. But we have to assume the worst. So we have to think about taking out the nuclear facilities they have. Now, does intelligence know where they are? Do they know how well constructed they are, whether they can be penetrated? I suspect they do. But the big problem is this: a huge concentration of artillery on the DMZ in the northeast area that has Seoul in range. Seoul is the capital of South Korea. It is a city of 10 million people. And if they open fire on that city, there's going to be a Holocaust. Therefore, it's not enough to bomb nuclear facilities.
Right.
We have to take out the artillery. And that's not going to be an easy job. That's not going to be a one-day strike. It's so much scattered around that it's going to be strategic bombers attacking day after day to take those out. And in the meantime, they'll be firing at Seoul.
Oh, for sure. And they spent 65 years putting this stuff in place with an attack like that in mind. So that seems tough. So meanwhile, as these tensions rise, China, which plays an integral role in the Korean Peninsula on both, are they using this to their advantage, these tensions?
For a very long time, I've seen them facing demands from the United States, from all administrations, for shifts in their trade policy, for shifts in currency. What has constantly happened is that sometime in that negotiations, the North Koreans do something insane. We feel we have to respond. We immediately run to the Chinese and say, Chinese, help us out. They do. The North Koreans calm down. We go back to negotiation. They said, hey, guys, we just helped you out. I mean, now you're going to push us in trade?
Right.
The interesting thing about Donald Trump is he admitted that this is the game. This is a game that's been being played for many years. But he said, I'll trade for North Korea.
So by admitting and telling the rest of the world that the Chinese are, in fact, playing a game designed to increase their trade advantage, was that helpful to us?
Well, it has this much help. It takes the obvious and makes it believable. This has been going on for a long time. It's been going on in the Obama administration. It went on the Bush administration. Now the president has simply said this is the game that the Chinese are playing.
Right.
It sets up his future move, however. He says, we've been blackmailed the last time on North Korea. Let's get back to trade. But he's made it clear that if they help this time, he's going to cut a better deal. I've never seen a politician do this. In the open, simply admit what the game is.
Interesting. I mean, there's got to be an advantage over the way it's been played previously. So would you rate North Korea the greatest nuclear threat to the United States, or is there a scarier one?
At this moment, it's the greatest one. It's the greatest one because we're not certain. We know that it has the ability to build nuclear weapons. Can it miniaturize them? Can it make them rugged enough to be launched off by a missile? Are the missiles reliable enough? That doesn't seem to be the case. But I can say that easily because I have no responsibility.
Right.
The president has to make the call. How much of a chance is he willing to take and figure out just what the price is going to be? This is the most dangerous one, I suspect, because it's going to be the hardest one to eliminate.
Do you think, finally, that the North Korean government is predictable and rational in its evil way?
It has been perfectly predictable. It wants to appear to be weak so that nobody bothers it, crazy so nobody pokes at it because who knows what they'll do,
Yes.
and ferocious, capable of destroying the world.
Right.
And even though they are a country that is insignificant by most measures, they have managed to maneuver the Japanese, the South Koreans, the Chinese, the Russians, and the Americans into treating them as an equal. And that is a brilliant move, and they have done that over the years, and you don't have to like them to respect them. They are good at this.
Yeah. No, it's a prison move. Someone hassles you, you bite his nose off, they never bother you again. Have you seen that before, George? Thank you for joining us. That was really interesting.
Thanks for having me.